I am honored to introduce somebody that is just a fabulous woman to hear from, very inspirational. Dr. Connie Stapleton, who will cover the prevention of weight regain following surgery. Dr. Stapleton is a licensed psychologist and owner of Mind Body Health Services in Augusta, Georgia. A native of Iowa, she received her doctoral degree from Texas A&M University in counseling psychology. She's an expert in recovery from addictions of all sorts. Her passion is the mental, physical, and spiritual health of parents and families, and she also serves on the ObesityHelp.com Mental Health Advisory Board. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Connie Stapleton.
Hi. Last person of the day. I'm glad you're all still here. I want to tell you how grateful I am to be here and how much I love doing this, and I'll tell you why I love doing this. And I'm going to speak a lot, not a lot, but some about the cross-addiction thing. It's because I'm in recovery, and I have been for almost 20 years, and I see obesity as an addiction. And so I think of it as recovering from obesity, and I know the joys of being in life in recovery, so it gives me a lot of gratitude to be able to share that with you and to inspire you to have that kind of life also. So, what I'm going to talk about today is sustained weight loss, but I need to know who I'm talking to. So, if you have not yet had your surgery, but are in the planning stages, just stand up for me real quick. Need to know, okay, oh right, a couple people planning, oh good, okay, don't be shy. Okay, great. If you have had your surgery within the past year, please stand. Within the last year, if you've had your procedure within the last year. Okay, great. And if you're more than a year out. Okay, oh, this is great. Okay, so we got a little bit of everybody. Thank you. Hope that woke you up just a little bit too. I forgot I have the clicker. Okay. My objectives today are to talk about you in terms of your whole life. When you're planning to have the surgery, or when you're just after having the surgery, your whole life is about your gut, right? But after you've been out of surgery for a year or more, your life becomes back to being your life. And your life includes more than just the rerouting of your intestines, but it's your whole life. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So one of my objectives is to talk about balancing your life, and I'll refer to this in terms of centers of balance, which I'll tell you what those are in just a minute. And most importantly, I'm going to talk to you about what I call the gotta do-ums. When I did the talk in LA a couple of weeks ago, the guy who was doing the thing said, "Are you the one who's got this speech called what do you call them? The GDEs? I'm like, no, those are he said, the gotta do EMS. I'm like, no, they're not EMS, they're gotta do ums. You gotta do these things if you want to keep your weight off. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, I take a whole, where'd it go? Okay, I take a whole person approach to this, because I know that being in recovery myself, your whole life changes once you become in recovery. Once you've had your surgery, your whole life changes. Mary Jo was talking about how people treat you differently, how you think about yourself differently, and so you have to take a whole body approach to this, a whole life approach to. What this translates to is keeping your weight off over your lifetime, not just that first year after surgery, not just that second year after surgery, but for your whole life, and finding happiness in all areas of your life. Because if you remember, before you had your surgery, or back years before you had your surgery, you may have been one of the people who said, and be honest with yourself, if you ever said, when I lose my weight, I'll be happy. Anybody? Okay. Is it true when you lose your weight, are you automatically happy? No, absolutely not. So we got to talk about your whole life. And the reality of that is that balance comes from more than simply losing your weight. It's more than putting the right foods in your mouth, finding the right number on the scale. We have to talk about how obesity has been intertwined with all of your life. So when I say centers of balance, I call these your true keys to happiness. Because obesity, although it does contribute in some ways to your unhappiness, is not the sole cause of it, right? Mary Jo also said you don't become 100 pounds overweight without hearing some issues under that weight. And what I have found in my work as a psychologist is that as your weight comes off, issues sometimes start to rise. Is that true? Right. So you've got issues to deal with as you lose your weight. So you want to find genuine happiness, and in order to have genuine happiness, it's more than just losing the weight, but it's finding balance. When I talk about centers of balance, see my little daisy back there? My daughter did my little PowerPoint for me. I just love her because I'm not very technologically inclined. But centers of balance are like a daisy, right? And the happiest people in our society have balanced lives. And balanced lives include your spiritual life, your cognitive life, we'll talk about that, your emotional life, your physical life, your social life, and your enterprising life. This is all of you, and we're going to talk about each one of these things. Starting with your spiritual center. Because like a daisy, your spiritual center is actually the middle, the center. Okay, and if you have a daisy, and you've got to have a healthy center, because that's where the petals come from, right? If your center is dead, then nothing else is going to bloom or grow from that. And I think about your spiritual center as the center of all of your happiness. Okay? And obesity interferes with your relationship with God. And part of the reason is when you're not feeling your best, when you're not looking your best, when you don't feel the best about yourself, your self-esteem suffers, right? When you're at your heaviest, how well did you like looking in the mirror? Not much, right? How much did you like other people looking at you? Now, I've always kind of been told that we're created in the image of God, right? So that means, if you think about the image of God, it's all the good things, right? The kindness, the love, the compassion, the joy, the happiness. And if you're feeling badly about yourself, then that's not really focusing on who you are as an image of God. And that Nelson Mandela thing that Mary Jo finished with is exactly talking about that. So obesity does result in an imbalance in your spiritual center. And if your spiritual center is imbalanced, the whole thing's going to be off kilter. Obesity also interferes with our relationship with other people and with ourselves. Again, if we're talking negatively about ourselves, we're not doing ourselves any favors. We're not building ourselves up. We're not feeling like we want to interact with other people. We're not putting our best self forward, which then, of course, interferes with our relationships with other people. Mary Jo talked about your sex life. That's a relationship with another person, or other people, as the case may be. Whatever your preferences are. But either way, it's not a positive thing going on when you're not feeling good about yourself. I guess I'll just talk about that sexual thing for a minute, because people can either go either way with that, just like anything. You can become, very, very promiscuous because you don't feel good about yourself, or you can shut that part of your life off altogether. Neither one of those places are the healthy place to be. Another way that obesity interferes with your spiritual life is that you become overly self-focused. Now think about that for a minute. When you're overweight, you do think about, what are other people thinking of when they look at me? How are other people perceiving me? I'm staying home too much because I don't want to go out in the other world. We think, whether it's true or not, that everybody's really looking at us. They may or they may not be. Chances are they're really not. But we're very, very self-focused. That's imbalanced. Okay, it's true everybody's self-focused to a degree. We're not talking about healthy self-focus here. We're talking about unhealthy self-focus. Unhealthy being if it interferes with our relationship with God, if it interferes with our relationship with ourselves, and if it interferes with our relationships with other people. And that's the way it's going to be.